Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Reacts. And today we are talking about a lost World War One German U-boat that was found off of the Shetland coast.
A really interesting find.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is quite incredible finding a lost German U-boat.
The U-boat in question was designated SMUC 55, and it was a mine layer. This is a submarine whose job it is to slip below the surface of the waves and plant explosives in the path of, or the intended path of, enemy vessels. This particular World War One U-boat is credited with the sinking of 9 ships, making her a fairly effective vessel overall. Sure, the British were very much displeased with her existence for most of her time in operation.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, for
nine
sure.
ships is still a pretty high body count.
Yeah, yeah, it is a lot. Yeah, yeah, it is a very large number of ships, especially for a minesweeper, which doesn't actively hunt other vessels, but rather just places traps and hopes someone walks into them.
Which I think this ship has probably one of the most tragic and arguably kind of comical demises while they were laying mines off of the coast of the off the coast of the Shetland Islands, the port of Lerwick. They were laying mines and they ended up losing a piece of trim on their ship, which caused them to dive below their operational depth. So they went below what the submarine was normally able to do, and the captain, thinking quickly, decides to surface and to scuttle the ship to sink it after they disembark. However, once they surfaced, they were spotted by a bunch of British ships, and the British ships, which were the HMS Tirade and the HMS Sylvia, they fired depth charges and shells into the water and blew up the U boat and sunk it right then and there.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
Yeah, talk about a brutal demise.
yeah, and for those of you who don't know, when referring to trim on a submarine, that is the system by which the ballast tanks are filled with water or filled with air in order to change the depth of the ship. Losing trim effectively means that you either can't surface or can't descend, at least not to your full capacity. It is probably the deadliest malfunction you can have on a submarine, short of the hatch detaching.
Yeah, or
sure.
imploding.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is again the hatch falling off, right? It just it's probably one of the worst things you can do. And the article, I feel, talks very well about handling a discovery like this, handling the archaeology of it, as the wreckage was discovered in 1985 at a depth of 105 meters, and the first visual inspection teams have just recently begun going in the past 10-15 years. And the quote from one of the dive team members sums up very well the assessment of what happened. This was a wartime event. It was not sunk by accident. And the you know when you're down there looking at this in the pitch black depths of the sea, the thing to always keep in mind is that this is likely the grave of at least 20 people.
Yeah, which
Um,
I think that's something that tends to get lost sometimes in the romanticization of sunken vessels,
yeah,
because there's usually the connotation of either like treasure or historical mix, but it really is a grave. Like
yeah,
in one of the previous videos that we did earlier today, Aaron made a comment about the USS Arizona,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oops.
which is a museum and a gravesite of a number of U.S. naval members.
yeah, yeah. The key is, as interesting as this is, as wonderful of a find as it is, uh, remember to approach with humility rather than excitement, because this is a tomb on, whether it's on the ocean floor or, carved into a mountainside or anywhere else for that matter. A tomb is a tomb.
Which, the fact that this was found at a depth of 105 meters, that is super deep.
Yeah.
Especially for divers to go down.
Yeah, that is, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely, because what is it, most dives, are at most like 50, 60 meters, and even then you have to spend like an hour and a half just going up and down so you don't oxygenate your blood.
So you don't get the bends.
Yeah. I forget the exact medical term for it, but diving to excessive depths, especially depths like this,
it's not an
take
easy
a
task.
very large time investment of just floating in the darkness at a specific height.
But
so you don't die.
It does also pose another interesting conundrum, I personally think, because you look at this and you look at the wreckage of this site. I wonder what the condition of it is. I wonder if there is some level of research that can be done, some level of documentation that they can map out the debris field, the site, the wreckage site. I wonder what they can actually pull from the wreckage.
And I feel like they must believe that there is a lot that they can pull. Otherwise, they would have done what is done a lot of times in the Gulf of Mexico, where they would have charted where they found the wreckage and moved on. They wouldn't have bothered with the dive teams if it was just, we acknowledge that there is a vessel likely dating to this period and this affiliation at this depth and this location. Usually they just mark it down on a chart, put it in the database, move on. So it's probably fairly intact, or at the very least some part of it seems to be preserved. Otherwise, it would not be getting this degree of attention.
Yeah, and the German U-boats during that period were fierce.
Oh God, yeah. There's no telling how many. Actually, we probably do have an estimate of how many people died because even before the U.S. entered the war.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of an important context thing as to why the ship would have just bombed it and not given it a second chance.
Yeah, and also too with like the significance of the find. This is a World War I U-boat, which means that we are in the early days of submersible warfare. This is really the first time we see submarines operate on a major scale. This is this is the introduction of an entire new theater of war. And so I presume that novelty at the very least might be why they are going down again and again to get more looks at this vessel.
Yeah, but I think that's a great point for us to wrap up and move on here, because I think we talked quite a bit. There was a good bit of ethics, good bit of history, and some interesting finds coming off the coast of the Shetland Islands. We did not just pick this for the island name.